Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Good evening. Welcome to your Direct Connection. Coming up tonight, should the college athletes playing in the Final Four be paid? That's ahead. First tonight, the sudden change in leadership in Baltimore City. Facing calls for her resignation today, Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh has taken a leave of absence. Joining us is the Baltimore Sun's Luke Broadwater. Luke, thank you for being with us. You initially broke this story that the mayor had sold, I guess, $500,000 worth of these children's books to the University of Maryland Medical System, where she sits on the board. But today the story got worse, I guess.
Yes, that's right. A number of things happened today. In the morning, my colleagues at The Sun reported that it was not just a $500,000 deal with the University of Maryland Medical System, which has been the subject of much scrutiny and accusations of self-dealing, but also that the mayor had also engaged in a $100,000 deal with Kaiser Permanente as they sought work from city government. This sparked calls for her to resign from Controller Peter Franchot, from Delegate Kathy Shalega, and others. It also prompted Governor Larry Hogan to request a criminal investigation from the special prosecutor, from the state prosecutor. Shortly thereafter, Mayor Pugh announced that she will be taking an indefinite leave of absence, citing health reasons. That means that City Council President Jack Young will step in as the temporary mayor of Baltimore.
Now, there are some health concerns. I mean, she was in the hospital with pneumonia, is said to be recovering at home tonight. In terms of these deals, are they necessarily illegal? I mean, for somebody to write a book, sell the book, that's not necessarily a problem. I guess we get into questions about ethics and disclosure here.
Yes, that's right, and you're correct. The mayor is in fact sick. I've talked to her a couple of times, and she is very much sick. She has pneumonia, and I think it is quite clear, at least on the end of University of Maryland Medical System, there is no allegation of someone breaking a law right now. There's nothing done illegal on their part to date. This is a matter of ethics, of best practices. There are a couple of bills in the General Assembly right now that would address this. One would make it illegal for board members such as the mayor to engage in no-bid contracts with the medical system they're supposed to oversee. There's another sponsored by Senator Jill Carter, which would make any deal, whether bid or not, illegal between the board and the system. So, it isn't illegal right now under state law, but there's quite an effort to make this kind of practice illegal because of how distasteful and unseemly so many lawmakers find it.
Luke, you covered City Hall before you were on the Annapolis beat. I mean, it seems like the shame of this is that Baltimore's had such a rough last 4 or 5 years. Huge changes, the crime problem. The city seemed to be stabilizing a little, perhaps. New police commissioner finally in place. And now you have instability with the council president taking over, perhaps temporarily.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants to see Baltimore thrive. And we have had a terrible murder rate for the past 4 years with more than 300 murders each year. The mayor has been trying to get a grip on that, but there's been such turnover with the police department with, as you mentioned, 4 different police commissioners in a single year, including the past police commissioner now going to jail for tax, for not paying his taxes. So unfortunately, there is continued turmoil in the city of Baltimore. At the same time, I don't think people feel like they can turn a blind eye to behavior that Speaker Mike Bush called the biggest scandal he'd seen in his time in the legislature, and what Senate President Miller called a total disaster. So there's a lot of questions about whether this board should have been engaging in these types of contracts while they voted for more than $4 million in pay and benefits for the CEO. We know now that 3 board members have resigned, 4 more are on leave, and the CEO himself is also on leave.
Let's talk politics for a second. With the way the mayor, at best, wounded by this, the election is just a year away. The primary election for mayor. This is an opportunity for a lot of people, maybe some sitting right behind you, to think about running for mayor of Baltimore.
Yes, that's right. I mean, as of right now, as of a week or two ago, there was only one person in the race, and that was the mayor seeking re-election. She had posted quite a hefty amount of funds in her campaign accounts, but there have been other names that have been talked about. One is the city councilman Brandon Scott, is widely rumored as perhaps considering a run. Another is Senator Bill Ferguson, the Baltimore Democrat, who has said he's open to a run. 2 others are both named Mosby. Delegate Nick Mosby has long wished to be mayor. His wife, the state's attorney, is perhaps the single most popular politician in the city of Baltimore who currently holds elected office, although she's not necessarily popular outside of the city. And she would be a formidable candidate if she chose to run. There are several other names being tossed about, including T.J. Smith, the former city police spokesman. He recently just moved into the city by the filing deadline. In order to live in the city, you have to live in the city a year before the election. And a few other names as well. Tharu Vignaraja, another pretty well-known prosecutor, has also been talked about as a potential candidate.
Luke,
and also, I forgot, Sheila Dixon. Dixon, who knows?
Luke, before we let you get back to work there, one bit of legislative news we ought to pass on, and that's that the Speaker of the House of Delegates, the longtime Speaker Mike Bush, has been absent for a week or so, and you have some information about his situation.
Yes, we just learned from his chief of staff that he also has pneumonia. It seems to be not doing so great. He is still in the hospital, and he hopes to return by sine die a week from now to end out the session, but he is still in the hospital with pneumonia. He recently had some work done on his liver. He had a surgery a few years ago, so Speaker Pro Tem Adrienne Jones will be filling in for him, as she has been for several days now.
Very good. You can read Luke Broadwater's reports, BaltimoreSun.com, and in the printed Baltimore Sun. Luke, we appreciate the time. And when we come back tonight, is it time to pay some student athletes? We'll find out.
Are you turning 70 and a half this year? If so, you generally have to start spending down your retirement account. Even the minimum distribution can place you in a sticky situation. Luckily, you can now use your IRA to make tax-free gifts. Gifts up to $100,000 will never count as income, but always make a difference. That's icing on the cake.
Make your gift for this year before December 31st. Visit mpt.org/support.
This is a box that showed you a world beyond your own. It was just a box, but the world has changed, and so have we. And now the box can be almost any size or shape. And you decide what you want to explore. Anytime, any place. Break out of the box with PBS.
We are the curious.
Wow.
The adventurous.
Oh.
Those venturing out for the first time.
And those who've never lost our sense of wonder.
Whoa. You seen this?
We are the hungry.
The strong.
I must be the greatest.
The joyful.
A happy little cloud.
We believe there is always more we can uncover.
More we can explore.
We believe in the capacity for goodness.
And the potential
for greatness.
The torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
PBS.
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 College sports are big business, especially at this time of year. Joining us to talk about whether the athletes are getting a fair deal are Dion Kohler, director of the University of Baltimore Center for Sport and the Law, and Tony Agnon, sports agent with Eastern Athletic Services. Good to see both of you back here at MPT.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so it's March Madness time, even though we're into April now. It's $1 billion enterprise in terms of how much money the NCAA is collecting from the networks. The coaches are getting paid, the conferences are getting paid, the kids are not getting paid. Is that fair?
Well, I think, Jeff, first of all, the kids are getting paid. They're getting scholarships, right? And so a lot of people would say that's enough. But the question of is it fair, we really have to take a step back, I think, and we have to ask ourselves, not from the position of where we usually sit, which is as sports fans, right? As sports fans, I think we're quite happy to keep the system as it is. But the fairness question from an economic perspective really is, are these individuals, at least the sort of big-time conference players, are they getting what they're worth? And I think the economic decision is when a worker or a player, for instance, generates more value for the enterprise than what they're getting paid, that's the very definition of exploitation, and I think that's the heart of the argument here.
So for it to be a legal contract, you have to have some consideration. Showing off my one semester of B-Law. So tuition counts. I mean, it's a thing of value.
Yes, tuition counts, and now since the O'Bannon litigation a few years ago, what we call student athletes, a made-up term by the NCAA, they get their tuition and what we say is the full cost of attendance, but they can get no more, and that's because the NCAA has come together and restricted that, and so that was the basis of the latest lawsuit where that was challenged under antitrust law as being a restraint on trade, that exceptional players, or really any player, but certainly the exceptional players are what are most interested in this. They don't have the opportunity to go bargain for anything beyond that full cost of attendance scholarship.
All right, now some of those exceptional players on the football field wind up becoming clients of Tony's. You represent a lot of NFL players. From your standpoint, those people have won. I mean, they wind up getting the NFL contract. Was it fair to them?
Well, the problem is that they may get an NFL contract, but they're slotted in. We have our own kind of system where you have to go through a draft, which means you have to go to the team that picked you. And that was something the Players Association gave back to make this work a little bit better. And it's a great system, except that it's still a restraint on trade. We just are allowed to do it because it's collectively bargained. The same thing is going to have to come through with the college kids. They're going to have to collectively bargain a way that if you play in the SEC, you get this amount of money. If you play in the ACC, you get this amount of money. If you play in the NEC, you get this amount of money. Because something has to come into play, or, is absolutely correct, the dean is right on point, they have to get something more than what they're getting now. And that is they get full scholarship. But in the old days, back in years ago, we used to get laundry money. You could sell your tickets. You could make extra money. You can't do any of that today under the NCAA rules. So therefore, something has to be to give these guys an opportunity, and women an opportunity, to get back some of this money.
We have the free enterprise system, but it's sort of interesting that both at the amateur college level and when you get to the pros, it's not all that free. I mean, if Tony Agnon, the 18-year-old, had been 6'5" with a rocket arm, and you're close, how would that have worked out? I mean, you wouldn't have had a choice about, you had to go to college to develop. I guess you have a choice of school, but all you're going to get out of that is the education. And then when you go to the pros, when you get drafted in the first round, you're going to go where they tell you, and you're going to get what you get.
Right, and that's because it's bargained by the association, the Players Association.
Which you never signed up for if you're the kid.
Right. Well, the players have always argued, hey, this is a system you brought us into, and we really weren't part of it. And from the collective bargaining agreement, they say, yes, you're not part of it, but you will be once you enter into this situation. What has changed and what people don't talk about is, what about the kid that's 18 years old that's a great hockey player? He can go and he can leave college after a couple of years and go and play in the National Hockey League. Or a kid who's a great right-hander, 6'5", and can throw it 96 miles an hour, he has a right at that point to decide in high school if he's going to go, or after 3 years he's going to go to the major leagues or attempt to go.
So what's the difference with the big two revenue sports, basketball, football?
The big two is you can do one and done with basketball, but in football you have to stay at least 3 years in college, and then you can petition for the draft. And you don't have to be accepted, but you can be petitioned for it. So eventually what's going to happen is, just as mentioned before, the judge said, hey, NCAA, we're tired of you guys doing whatever you want to do. You're now going to have to give these young men and women an opportunity to get something back because of all the money you're accepting.
Let me remind our viewers, if you want to join the conversation, if you have an experience about this or a question for us, give us a call. We'll have the number up on the screen. You can also email your questions, the email address livequestions@mpt.org. So some people have proposed unionization as an answer for this. Is that a path forward?
Well, I think unionization might be a path forward, and of course Delegate Brooke Learman here in Baltimore City proposed legislation in Maryland. Other states have been considering it as well. Michigan had legislation to ban their college athletes from unionizing, and a few years ago the Northwestern University football players attempted to unionize. They're a private school. They went through the NLRB. The NLRB didn't take jurisdiction there, but said, yeah, these guys are employees. They're workers. They're putting in a lot of hours. They are subject to a lot of control by their institutions. So this looks a lot like a potential collective bargaining situation. My prediction is, though, that we can't have this be a state-by-state thing where some states allow collective bargaining by their athletes, other states don't. Congress would undoubtedly have to step in. It would have to be a national system. But certainly if we look at allowing athletes to get paid over and above the current scholarship limits now, I think collective bargaining is a great way forward.
Did these kids look like employees legally to either of you?
They legally absolutely look like employees. If you take a look at the number of hours they put in, the control universities have. I mean, Tony, I'm sure you're aware, these guys can't even tweet without being sort of monitored. And you want to talk about sort of they're compensated through their education. The number of hours that they put in makes getting the full educational experience nearly impossible, right? So if you are in a college basketball, if you're in March Madness, if you're a college basketball player, you're traveling on average of 42 days during the season. You are missing about 2 days of class. This is not the full experience that other students are getting. And so, yeah, they look a lot like employees.
Are there limitations on, we're watching some basketball, on how hard they can work? I mean, they have to be able, they do go to class, theoretically, right?
They do go to class.
They theoretically go to class, but I think, Tony, you'd agree. Some people say they major in eligibility, that their curriculum is so shaped by making them available to train. And they are training, these are 60-hour-a-week, often or more types of training regimens. And what that leads into, Jeff, isn't just the pay. It's the long-term health consequences, and I know Tony is very familiar with this. The thing that started the discussion over athlete pay wasn't just the dollars and cents. These guys weren't motivated to say, give me a check at the end of the week. They were motivated by the injuries. The concussion issue, very, very serious. We saw it in March Madness. Tony and I were just talking about it. A kid hit the floor in a game last week. Nobody even went out.
Saw that.
It was a concussion to any eighth grader watching, yeah. And so long-term health consequences, about 2/3 of all college players in all sports suffer a major college sports injury. About 50% of all athletic trainers say that they're forced to put kids back in the game when they shouldn't.
All right, let me devil's advocate for a second. Kids get hurt playing lacrosse too.
Sure.
And there's no money in that.
Okay. But are lacrosse players generating the kind of revenue for their schools that men's football and basketball players are generating?
No. So you think it's a fair deal for the lacrosse team, the soccer team, Are they doing similar hours?
Again, in terms of a fair deal, what you would ask is what is the value that a lacrosse player, a soccer player, what's the value they're creating for their school? And their value is not nearly as much as big-time conference football and basketball players. And Tony can probably put dollars and cents on it because that's his business.
But my belief is that lacrosse, where they have a national championship and you have all those teams in there and you are getting revenue, should also be included. And so should some of these other baseball. We have the Baseball World Series in Omaha, Nebraska. They make a lot of money on that kind of thing. Those are all the areas that you have to look at. So maybe they don't get as much as money as the basketball player or the football player. But you know what? They're entitled to some of that as well. As long as we're going to have this situation the way it is, then we should. And the other thing about the full experience of an athlete in college, they are tutored quite a bit. And they spend a lot of money on tutoring, which is great. But at the same time, it isn't a situation where a youngster can decide to go and do a semester abroad, or some of the other things that I think are valuable to well-round the individual. And so that worries me, that concerns me.
The amateur status, when somebody signs a contract with you, it's a happy day for everybody. They're no longer amateurs, right? And they can't get that back.
Correct. Except if there's some way they petition the NCAA and the NCAA decides that we return to the situation that was before. You can do that to a certain degree, but only under special circumstances.
Yeah.
The thing is, what I laugh about all the time is when they call this amateur. This kind of money and going on, that's anything, that looks like professionalism to me. So if we're not going to say that it's professionalism, then we have to come up with a better term. It's certainly not amateur.
You know, one of the flashpoints for this debate occurred recently in the regular season for the Duke stars. Zion Williamson, his shoe blew apart. Everybody saw that. It was terrible because his leg bent funny, and he was out. He had a knee injury for several weeks, and it focused attention on whether he should even play. You know, should he protect his multi-million-dollar future career and risk it in this tournament? You're not a basketball agent, but what would you advise somebody?
Well, I'm sure that
like
Nike was very upset about it, and I'm sure that he'll sign a very lucrative arrangement with a sneaker company, and it'll probably be Nike. And I would think he won't have to worry about a thing. He's already gotten his leverage just based on the fact that it was their shoe that blew apart.
Thinking about somebody, you know, with high earning potential, as you say, the different leagues require them to be in school for a year, 3 years. Can they protect themselves financially somehow?
Well, they can buy insurance. It's so expensive. And actually, the NCAA has a policy where the school can buy it now. And in other words, share the risk, so to speak. But one of the things that concerns me is not only now a player, you see a lot of players are now sitting out of bowl games, and is upsetting a lot of the fans, especially the fans of that team. But what the player is saying is, hey, look, I can't buy a big enough insurance policy in order to protect myself any longer, so I'm not going to play in this game. And having had a player blow out his knee in the fourth quarter of a game, in a bowl game, and it cost him a draft opportunity, I understand where they're coming from with that.
And so what would you advise?
I usually tell them, listen.
The sports fan, Tony, says.
That's right, exactly. The sports fan says, please play, and, you know, it's really good. The bettor probably says the same thing, you know, because now sports betting being as legal as it is. But from an agent perspective, I would say to him, I think you've already shown enough, and maybe it's something to think about now to not play.
How would you divvy it up? I mean, if there was a situation where the Power 5 conferences, the big programs, were going to pay kids, how would you come up with a mechanism where the star gets more than the kid at the end of the bench, or do you?
Well, I think this is the argument that's been used against it all along, Jeff, is this is so complex, we can't possibly figure it out. But lots of lawyers, smart agents like Tony, economists, we can figure it out. I mean, there are tax implications, there are Title IX gender equity implications, there are lots of legal implications, none of which are a barrier to actually making this work and making it work so that the model is sustainable. I mean, one thing, Jeff, this is a unique model in the whole world, education-based elite sports. Nobody else does this. We do it great here in the United States. I think the problem is that if we don't fix this soon, the model as it currently stands is not sustainable. It's not sustainable to have a coach getting paid $10, $11, $12 million a year while your athletes just aren't getting any piece of that pie. And I think that if we can change the model and figure out how to divvy it up, which I know we can, there are lots of plans on the table, it's going to strengthen college sports. It's going to make it better going forward and not diminish it at all.
I have 20 seconds. What's the time frame? When does this evolve forward? Is there a judge who forces everybody's hand?
Well, the NCAA, the most recent case, it's on appeal, where the judge ruled that their model, the restraint, violated antitrust laws. She proposed a remedy. That's up on appeal. I think in the next year you're going to see more NCAA movement, and you're going to see more state legislatures and maybe even Congress trying to take the lead. Dion and Tony, we really appreciate the time. Thanks for coming by. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Join us Thursday for Your Money in Business. We'll find out how a father who was looking to help his daughter take some bad-tasting medicine turned that into a business. That's Thursday at 7. Now, for all of us at MPT, I'm Jeff Salkin. Thanks for watching and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.